My fiancé left me because he wanted a richer life. What he never imagined was that one day he would sit across from me in an office, waiting for my approval. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Seraphina Vaughn. A year ago, I thought I had everything planned. I was engaged to Callum Pierce, a smart and charming man I had loved for 4 years. We lived in a small apartment in Crestmont City. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. We cooked dinner together, talked about our future, and counted every dollar carefully. I believed we were building something meaningful step by step. As our wedding date got closer, Callum started changing. At first it was small things. He stayed late at work more often. He bought new suits we couldn't really afford. He began talking about bigger opportunities and high-level connections. I supported him because I thought his ambition included me. Then one evening, I heard him on the balcony talking on the phone. His voice sounded different, calculating. He said, "This marriage will secure everything." I smiled at first, thinking he meant us. But then he said another name, Lennox. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off. A week later, he sat across from me at our kitchen table and didn't look me in the eyes. He said he needed stability. He said love wasn't enough. He said I deserved someone who could give me more. What he really meant was that he found someone richer. He slipped the engagement ring off my finger and placed it on the table like it meant nothing. 4 years of memories reduced to a quiet goodbye. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just felt something inside me shut down. 2 weeks later, I learned he was engaged to Lennox Whitmore, daughter of a powerful real estate investor. The news spread fast. People who once congratulated me suddenly avoided me. I saw photos of them attending events I was supposed to attend with him. He looked proud. She looked polished. They looked expensive. I cried for days. I questioned myself. Was I not enough? Was my love too small? But after the tears stopped, something else took their place. A quiet determination. I realized I had paused my own dreams while supporting his. I had ideas I never chased because I thought we were building together. That night, I opened my laptop and looked at the business plan I once saved and never touched again. I read every page carefully. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about proving anything to him. I was thinking about proving something to myself. After that night, I stopped checking the past and started focusing on what I could control. I took all the savings I had carefully built over the years and invested it into my idea. It was a financial analytics platform designed to help small businesses understand risk before making big investments. I had studied this field for years, but I had never believed I could build something on my own. Now I had nothing left to lose. The first few months were brutal. I worked from a tiny co-working space with old furniture and weak coffee. I sent emails to investors who never replied. Some of them smiled politely during meetings and then rejected me the next day. A few openly questioned whether I could handle the pressure. One man even suggested I find a strong business partner to guide me. I smiled and thanked them for their time, but every rejection felt like a reminder of the night Callum chose someone else. Instead of breaking me, it sharpened me. I rewrote my pitch. I improved my data models. I practiced speaking with more confidence. Slowly, something started to shift. A small investment group agreed to give me a chance. They didn't offer millions, but they offered enough. I hired 2 analysts, Tavian Rowe and Maris Calder, both talented and overlooked in their previous firms. Together, we worked late nights building the foundation of what would become Aurelis Analytics. We weren't glamorous. We weren't powerful, but we were hungry. Months passed. Our first client was a struggling regional supplier trying to avoid bankruptcy. Using our system, we helped them restructure their financial strategy. Within a year, they were stable again. Word started spreading. One company led to another, then another. For the first time, I walked into boardrooms not as someone's fiancé, not as someone's support system, but as the founder. During this time, I occasionally heard updates about Callum. His new life looked perfect from the outside. He attended private events. He appeared in business magazines beside Lennox. But whispers started circulating in industry circles. Lennox's father was known for controlling every detail of his empire. People who married into that family didn't gain freedom, they signed contracts. Then came the unexpected news. A regulatory investigation began targeting several Whitmore properties. Investors grew nervous. Leadership positions quietly shifted. And just like that, Callum's name stopped appearing in announcements. One afternoon, while reviewing acquisition reports, I saw something that made me pause. Aurelius had grown enough to consider purchasing a smaller consulting division that had recently lost funding. The company's client base aligned perfectly with our expansion strategy. As I scanned the employee list attached to the acquisition proposal, one name caught my attention: Callum Pierce. He wasn't listed as an executive. He wasn't even in upper management. He was just a senior analyst, recently transferred after a department restructuring. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. Life had a strange sense of timing. He had once told me I couldn't offer him stability. Now the company I built was strong enough to absorb the very firm he depended on. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel joy. I felt calm. The deal moved forward. A week later, HR sent me a resume for review. The consulting division employees were required to reapply under our structure. At the tea when I saw his resume in my inbox, my hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I simply read it like I would read anyone else's file. Callum Pierce. 5 years of experience. Strong portfolio. Recently seeking stable leadership opportunities. Stable. The word almost made me smile. Our company policy required final executive approval for certain transferred positions. Normally I would delegate it, but this time I didn't. I told HR to schedule a formal interview. The day arrived quickly. I chose a navy suit and kept my hair simple and professional. No dramatic entrance. No emotional preparation. Just another meeting on my calendar. When the conference room door opened, Callum walked in confidently at first. He was mid-sentence, probably greeting the assistant behind him. Then his eyes landed on me. He froze. For a moment, the room felt very quiet. Tavian and Maris sat on either side of me, reviewing their notes. Callum's face drained of color, but he forced a polite smile. "Seraphina," he said softly. "Mr. Pierce," I replied calmly. "Please have a seat." He sat down slowly, clearly trying to regain control. I could see it in his posture. The same man who once believed he had chosen the better future now sitting in front of the woman he left behind. But I didn't bring up the past. Not even once. I asked about his technical skills, his recent projects, how he handled high-pressure situations. He answered carefully, avoiding personal topics. His confidence returned little by little as he focused on business. At the end of the interview, I asked one final question. "Why do you believe you deserve to work at Aurelius Analytics?" He swallowed before answering. "Because I know what it takes to grow in competitive environments. And I'm ready to commit long-term." Commit. Another interesting word. I studied him quietly. He looked older, tired in a way I hadn't seen before. The polished glow he once carried was gone. This wasn't the man who left me for a bigger life. This was someone who had learned something the hard way. After the meeting ended, Tavian gave his honest opinion. "He's skilled. Could be useful." Maris nodded. "He'll work hard. He has something to prove." They didn't know the history, and I kept it that way. That evening, I signed the approval form. We hired him, not because I missed him, not because I wanted revenge in some dramatic way, but because I understood something powerful. The greatest response to betrayal isn't anger, it's growth. The first day he officially joined under our structure, I addressed the entire department about our upcoming expansion. Callum stood in the second row, listening as I outlined new partnerships and national contracts. He didn't interrupt. He didn't look away. He listened. And for the first time, he saw exactly what he had walked away from, not just a woman, but a future built with strength. Top of the stack was his application. Working in the same company as Callum felt strange at first, but I refused to let emotions guide me. I treated him exactly like every other employee. Clear expectations. Clear deadlines. No special treatment. He adjusted quickly. He stayed late. He volunteered for difficult projects. He avoided unnecessary conversations with me. Every report he submitted was detailed and precise. It was obvious he was trying to prove his value. Weeks turned into months. Aurelis continued expanding into new markets. We secured contracts that once felt impossible. I traveled for meetings, signed partnerships, and led strategy sessions that shaped our growth. Each success felt earned. One afternoon, I announced a major promotion opportunity. A senior leadership position had opened in the risk management division. It was a role with visibility, influence, and a significant salary increase. I knew several employees would compete for it, including Callum. Applications came in. I reviewed them carefully, focusing on performance metrics, leadership ability, and team impact. Callum's numbers were strong. He had worked hard. But when I looked deeper, something felt missing. His results were good, yet he rarely mentored others. He focused on rebuilding himself, not strengthening the team. Another candidate, Alara Dunn, stood out. She consistently supported junior analysts, improved workflow systems, and elevated everyone around her. Leadership isn't just about skill, it's about character. A few days later, Callum requested a private meeting. He stood in my office looking nervous but determined. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. I didn't interrupt. "I made a mistake," he continued. "I thought security came from wealth and influence. I didn't understand what I already had. I hurt you, and I regret it." His voice was sincere. Not dramatic. Not manipulative. Just honest. I let a moment of silence pass before answering. "You didn't lose me because you chose money. You lost me because you believed I had none." He lowered his eyes. "I built this company because I believed in myself." I continued. "Not because I wanted revenge. And I won't let the past define how I lead." He nodded slowly. "I understand." When promotion day arrived, I called the department together. I announced Alara Dunn as the new senior director. Applause filled the room. Alara looked shocked and grateful. Callum clapped too. Later that afternoon, I saw him at his desk, focused on his screen. No anger. No protest. Just quiet acceptance. Maybe that was growth. Maybe that was maturity finally settling in. Months later, Aurelis expanded nationwide. We opened new offices. We hired dozens of talented people. My life felt steady, not because of who stood beside me, but because of who I had become. Sometimes I would pass Callum in the hallway. We exchanged professional nods. Nothing more. He once left me searching for stability. Now he signs his emails with respect under the company I built from heartbreak. And I don't feel bitterness anymore. I feel free. As Aurelis continued to grow, something inside me shifted even more. At first, my drive came from pain. Then it came from determination. Now, it came from purpose. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. The company culture became my focus. I wanted Aurelis to be a place where talent mattered more than background, where loyalty wasn't bought, and where no one felt disposable. I knew exactly how it felt to be replaced when something better appeared. One evening, we hosted a formal company dinner to celebrate our 3rd anniversary. Investors, team leads, and department managers attended. The room was filled with quiet confidence and success that had been earned, not inherited. I stood at the front to give a speech. As I looked across the room, I noticed Callum sitting at one of the side tables with his team. He wasn't at the center of attention. He wasn't surrounded by elite connections. He was simply part of the company doing his job. And somehow, that felt like balance. In my speech, I didn't talk about revenue numbers or market share. I talked about resilience, about rebuilding after disappointment, about choosing growth over bitterness. The team listened closely, many of them unaware that I was speaking from personal experience. After the event ended, Callum approached me again. Not privately in my office this time, but respectfully in the open space near the exit. "You've built something incredible," he said. "Thank you," I replied. He hesitated before adding, "I'm grateful for the opportunity to work here." "I mean that." I studied him for a moment. There was no hidden intention in his eyes. Just acknowledgement. I hope you continue to grow here, I said calmly. And I meant it. Because the truth was, I no longer needed him to regret losing me. I no longer needed him to see my worth. I already knew it. A few months later, I made a personal decision that had nothing to do with business. I moved into a new home overlooking the city skyline. Not a mansion, not a symbol of wealth, but a space that represented independence. One quiet morning, I stood by the window with a cup of coffee and thought about the girl who once cried on a small apartment floor after being left for someone richer. She thought she had lost everything. But in reality, she had been released. Released from shrinking herself. Released from waiting for someone else's approval. Released from a future that depended on someone else's ambition. Callum once believed money guaranteed security. I learned that self-respect does. And that is something no one can walk away with. The years that followed were steady and strong. Aurelis became more than a company. It became proof that setbacks don't define outcomes. We expanded into multiple states, built partnerships with national firms, and created internship programs for young analysts who just needed someone to believe in them. I made sure our hiring process focused on potential, not pedigree. I remembered how it felt to sit in rooms where people doubted me. I never wanted anyone under my leadership to feel small. Callum remained consistent in his role. He performed well. He earned respect through discipline, not connections. Over time, the tension between us disappeared completely. We became two professionals who once shared a past but now only shared a workplace. One afternoon, HR informed me that Callum had applied for an opportunity at another firm. It was a solid position, independent, stable, and earned through his own effort. They requested a reference from me. I didn't hesitate. I wrote that he was capable, detail-oriented, and resilient under pressure. I didn't mention history. I didn't mention regret. I wrote the truth. A week later, he knocked on my office door one last time. I got the offer, he said. There was relief in his voice. I wanted to thank you for everything, especially the reference. You earned it, I replied. He nodded. I was wrong about a lot of things back then. I know, I said gently. There was nothing left to resolve. No unfinished emotions. No hidden anger. Just two people who had learned different lessons from the same past. After he left, I sat quietly for a moment. Not sad. Not nostalgic. Just reflective. If he hadn't walked away, I might have stayed comfortable. I might have continued supporting his dreams while quietly postponing mine. I might have never discovered how strong I truly was. His betrayal felt like destruction at the time, but it was redirection. That evening, I stayed late at the office reviewing plans for our next expansion. As I walked through the nearly empty floor, I paused at the glass wall overlooking the city lights. Everything I had once feared losing had been replaced with something better: confidence, independence, clarity. I realized something powerful. Revenge isn't about making someone suffer. It's about building a life so full that their absence no longer matters. Callum once chose money over me, believing it would secure